Good afternoon. This is Sriram Rangan. I'm a licensed paralegal and I specialize in landlord tenant board, small claims, and other civil litigation. This podcast is about my take on Bill 60, a hard look from the landlord side. Today, I want to take a serious and an honest look at Bill 60, not the headlines, not the press release, but its real impact on landlords, especially small and medium ones. Before we decide whether Bill 60 is good or a bad policy, we need to step back and ask a more important question. What were the actual problems landlords were facing at the landlord and tenant board? And does Bill 60 meaningfully address them? So, what were the real problems at LTB? For years, and especially post COVID, landlords have been remarkably consistent in their complaints. The number one issue has not been notice period, appeal timelines, or procedural technicalities. The single biggest problem has been delays, extreme delays in scheduling a hearing. Post-COVID, it was not uncommon for hearing to take a year or more to be scheduled. Even today, while N4 applications have been somewhat expedited to an average of 3 to 4 months, many other applications such as L2, N5s, N12s, T5s, related matters remain significantly delayed. Those delays are not theoretical. During that time, rent is often not being paid, mortgage still runs, utility still occurs, and small landlords carry the financial burden alone. Does Bill 60 fix scheduling delays? The honest answer is no, a very clear no. Bill 60 does nothing to meaningfully increase adjudicators' capacity, reform scheduling delays, impose enforceable times on the landlord and tenant board itself. There is no statutory obligations for the LTB to hear matters within a fixed period. There is no accountability mechanism if hearing takes months or years to schedule. So we have to ask, if delays were the core problem, why does Bill 60 largely ignore them? Reserved decision, another major failure. The second major issue landlords repeatedly raised was the explosion of reserved decisions. Even in cases where liability is clear, non-payment of rent, non-dispute of arrears, non-viable defense, adjudicators increasingly reserve decisions. Those decisions are often issued 30, 60, 90 days. And in some cases, I have personally seen delays of over 150 days. During this period, no rent is being paid. There is no interim relief. There is no consequences. Landlords are forced to file repeated complaints to the ombudsman just to push the LTB to release an order. Does Bill 60 address reserved decisions delay? Again, the answer is no. Bill 60 does not impose timelines on adjudicator. It does not mandate prompt decisions writing. It does not create consequences for excessive delay. In other words, the structural issue remains untouched. Superficial change, not structural reform. Let's look at what Bill 60 does change. It reduces the termination period of an N4 from 14 days to 7 days. It reduces appeal timeline from 13 to 15 days. It gives an option for an N12 not to pay the 1 month compensation if the landlord gives 4 months period of termination. But ask yourself this: how does reducing the notice period help in hearing if hearings are still delayed by months? How does shortening an appeal time fix delays that are being caused not by tenant, but the board itself? How does extending a termination period by 4 months, avoiding payment, the 1 month compensation, still reduces the delay to schedule an N12 hearing if challenged by the tenant? These changes may look decisive, but they do not touch the bottleneck. A system under stress, not a relief in sight. Another uncomfortable reality is that adjudicators themselves are overloaded. The case load is unmanageable. The pace is unsustainable. The pressure to process volumes has arguably reduced the quality and timelines of decision. Bill 60 does nothing to meaningfully address staffing levels, training, resourcing, uh, resourcing, or adjudicators' workload. Instead, enforcement risk is shifted downward once again onto the landlord. So, who is Bill 60 really for? To many landlords, Bill 60 feels like a policy designed to give the appearance of action without engaging with those who actually carry the financial risk, the landlord themselves. It does not reflect the live experience of small landlords who waited a year for a hearing, months for a decision, and bore all financial losses during that time. It raises an uncomfortable question where landlords genuinely consulted, or merely acknowledged. Conclusion: a legal professional's stake. From a legal, practical standpoint, Bill 60 does not address the core issues landlords have been raising for years. Delay, lack of accountability, adjudicators' overload, and decision latency remains intact. Without reforming the landlord and tenant board itself, procedural tweaks are little more than window dressing. Bill 60 is not the reform landlords were asking for, and calling it a solution ignores the fundamental problem and adding salt to the wound. Housing policies cannot be fixed by optics. It requires structural changes. Until that happens, landlord and tenants will continue to feel the strain. Thank you for listening to my opinion. This is Sriram Rangan, licensed paralegal from Vagans Legal Services. Have a blessed day.